Now, like it's already like my second compliment that I have to America, but so I would say it's pretty much the final one. I'm pretty sure I can't really think of anymore. It's just how centered America is. Like they have a lot of stuff to do, and like I said, I wasn't there as a tourist, but I still did stuff around. Like I visited, parks. They had really good sightseeing places, and I, like I said, I went to Manhattan, Times Square, such an iconic and wonderful place filled with so much people, like so much people. Wow, this is after the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, and oh my god, so much people in Times Square. I was like, well, I'm not even like, you know, like claustrophobic, but I'm sort of feeling that like dangerousness inside me. But I visited Broadway and saw Chicago, the musical there, and it was an amazing experience. The actors are great, the live band was great. Highly recommend it if you're ever visiting New York. Go watch a Broadway show. I don't care which one you see, just go see one. It was an eye opener for musicals for me. I liked them before, now I love them. It was a great time. I also went by chance. I just went to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum where you see a bunch of famous people done in wax, like lifelike. You must have heard of it. It was like I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, because I just went there as a whim where we were like, oh, we're stuck in Times Square, what do we do? And then I looked it up, and then wow, Madame Tussauds, it's a very famous place, let's go. So we just went there on a whim. Way better than we thought. Bit expensive, it was like $50 or something like that, but it's sort of worth it if you really don't have other things to do. What I do recommend if you're going to Manhattan, specifically Manhattan, but it kind of works for everywhere, is that uh, I do recommend planning ahead very, very like meticulously. Like anything can go wrong in New York, and you should have a backup plan. And then also that you should go to places. You shouldn't go to places just to wander around. I feel like especially Manhattan isn't a place for that. You really need a specific place you want to go. And if you're just wandering around, you could still do it, but you'll see, especially if you're somewhere not from the States, you're gonna get lost quick. If you still speak English, that's a big, big problem. Uh, and yeah, there's so much people, you're gonna get lost. You you're just gonna be feel overwhelmed by everything around you, and um, you should bring a lot of money, not just to like get mugged. Not in like you should. Like, I'm not saying like you should bring like so much money, but there's a lot of expensive stuff, and you should really plan how much you're gonna spend, how much time you're gonna walk, and the routes you're gonna go. Because New York, I don't care how much you say that it's like, oh, it's organized. I don't care how much people who say New York is organized. It's not. You get. I'm pretty sure I could get lost there, and I've been to New York a lot of times. Uh, just like a side note thingy. Um, Weather was surprisingly really good. I think whenever we travel, weather's normally really, really good for some reason. It's just a luck that I have, or maybe good planning by my parents' side. But we always had good weather, and it's not like, perfect weather. It still rained when we were in Manhattan, but generally skies were clear. Great view of the sky. I love how the buildings are low in America, so you can really see the open sky compared to Seoul, where everything is like 40 stories high. And weather compared to um, Korea, which is like stovepot, like of humidness and hotness. It goes over 30 degrees Celsius just in like the daytime. Like that's normal, and I hate that it is. But in America, it barely went over 30. Um, it's not as humid. It's really dry. It's really easy to get sunburned, but weather was really good compared to here, and I really enjoyed that. And now like to the complaints I had with America. Uh, like I said before in like previous videos, I'm currently going to a American school, and I know that one day I'll have to live in America. I don't know exactly which state, but I sort of decided I'll probably go over to the east side to New York and Boston where I know people live there. Uh, but just some things, if I think about, I just don't really enjoy about America. Just as as from his perspective, a person who's been there a lot, a thought I always had was how unsafe I feel. Maybe it's just gotten more as I grow up and it's just angsty these days, but and maybe it'll go away when I'm older. And like the people I know, my relatives there don't really think about this, but I just feel unsafe in America in general. Just how everything is orderly and organized, a bit too controlled, you might as like some people might say in Korea, but I kind of like that like everyone in society has a sort of like no uniform thought of like we shouldn't break the rules or we shouldn't you know it's better to sacrifice our freedom for the greater good. uh America, it's like, oh, freedom, my personal choice is the most important thing, and I completely respect it. It's just cultural differences, but because of that you don't really see a lot of rules being enforced or people following them. I feel like every time I walk down the street, I could get shot or mugged. Um, and just a lot of shady people you just see walking down. And America is like, maybe it's just New York in particular. It was so dirty. Like, trash is everywhere. And like, oh, I just couldn't imagine like going through Manhattan on a daily basis. Just no, thank you. I prefer limiting my freedom for a clean and safe city. Like, just the fact that you can just anyone around you could be holding a knife or gun is scary. Whereas here, the most like the really like kniving in Korea, yeah, they might have increased over the past like 50 years, but whenever like one instance happened, it's like a really big deal. Like crime rate isn't as high as it is in New York, and I personally didn't really feel safe from that, and I think that's the biggest factor, and that is why I recommend you to plan your route to the non-shady places. And as much as I hate to say it, be in a car, even then, if you're taking an Uber, that's kind of pushing the limits for my personal anxiety. And that was the biggest problem I had with America. It's just the fact that not everything goes as the way you planned because people don't really give a shit about you. I respect it, but here it's like completely different. And just the fact how unsafe and dirty it was. I'm not saying Seoul is like the cleanest city in the world, but it's better. And the last that's basically it for like the complaints I had with America specifically. I think that just sums up just America and its people. Like, yeah, it's very freedom. It's great, and food is great. The weather was really good. There's so much to do, but then like because of that, it's the infrastructure is not really that well defined. The highways are really bumpy, and not a lot. Like you could see the lights, the zebra crossing lights. Like some of them like literally broken down, like unhinged, and I was like, that's not safe. And nobody gives a shit because it works. It's like chaotic neutral, if you know that that meme template. Like it's not, it works. It's broken, but it works. uh, the last few complaints I have, which of course I have more, is to do with the airports and just the whole flying experience. Um, just to, preface this, this is considering, um, we're currently in a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic, and um, COVID regulations from Korea to America is very different between those two countries, and you have to fulfill both countries' needs. And I get that airports have been closed for the past 2 years, but you can still bitch about it, right? Um, First of all, flights are really, really expensive. It might just be that, like, one is like terrible, but even then, like, normally you could get away with like maybe like 900 $1,000 for a two-way ticket back, like, from Korea to um, New York. It was like 1,000 and like 200, 300. Cancel fees were like up high. They had to cancel our flight and move us to a bigger plane because they're trying to reduce the amount of planes, and so much people are packed into one plane. But if you might complain that, like, oh, there's so much people using my plane, but if you think about it, that's like only like 2-3 planes in the flight row, in the airport, like, at a time, in the terminal at a time, and that's like way below the average, like, number. Like, it's great for like immigration and like no one's there, but then also you have to think about there's no workers, and the workers are, rusty. They haven't worked in like 2 years. The whole like way and back, like, both airport experiences, like Incheon Airport is literally one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever been to, especially Terminal 2, which I know a lot of foreigners might not get to experience, but if you ever get the chance, just visit this hall. It's like amazing. But anyways, uh Incheon Airport was fine. Like I said, it's perfect, but like I still have like high standards as I travel a lot before. But it's like, it's good, it's great. And I landed in JFK, and then it's like, oh, no one's wearing a mask. Yeah, it's considering that you have to test COVID negative before you can even take the plane to Korea. Thanks, Korea. Um, and there it helps that, like, there's less people in the line of immigration, but like I said, workers, not really, pretty rusty. A lot less, like, stalls for workers, and like baggage claim is a bit slower. Still, airport experience is like not that great. It's just the problem where so much people are trying to go out, but the airport and the workers aren't ready yet. And COVID restrictions really limit of what you can do within America or on the way back to Korea. You had to wear a mask throughout the 14-hour flight, both ways, because of Korea's regulations. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, I was sick on the way back, and because I get plane sick, air sick, whatever you want to call it, really bad. And every time I fly, that's the reason why I don't really like flying. And I couldn't breathe. Like, I finally understood why, like, Americans complain about not wearing a mask. I literally couldn't breathe, and I do not recommend flying at this current point. Wait a year or two until at least the pandemic ends. Then do whatever the hell you want. Visit America, great country, as like, even though all the complaints I just did. And that's just my whole experience. I had a great time with family, ate a lot, drank a lot. Hope to see them again, maybe in the future. If you want to see photos I took, I posted on Twitter. Bye.